Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of my MyTeam series as Brabham Racing on the F123 game. If you did miss the last episode around Imola, or you missed a good episode, there was a battle for the lead all the way to the very last lap with a last lap overtake for Charles Leclerc on Max Verstappen to get the win, and we had a good drive from the field from P17 into the point, so we managed to get another good point scoring finish, and that one was really fought after. And I've been meaning to do this for a while, but I just keep forgetting to do it. We're doing a quick look at the performance there. As you can see, Red Bull and Ferrari are well and truly out in front, with Red Bull actually got quite a gap over Ferrari in the performance. And then Aston Martin and Mercedes, they're surprisingly extremely close on pace, considering I think they're quite a bit off the constructors though. I think Mercedes have had a few more podiums than Aston Martin has. And then everyone else in the field is very bunched up. So from McLaren all the way down to us, there's really not much in it at all. And before we head to practice, we need to just have a quick look at the weather radar, and for qualifying it's going to be wet. So I've had an idea. If I put on a wet setup during qualifying, hopefully I can get myself a good enough qualifying position to maybe get some points. But Monaco is really hard to pass, so I am thinking if I go for a wet setup and boost my qualifying performance, I could very much just be able to defend my position during the race. I reckon defending is going to be much easier around here than it will be to overtake. So that's the plan of action, to in qualifying just try and maximize the wet conditions and see how mixed up the starting grid will be, as we're now on the final lap of our first practice program, which is the race strategy program. And straight off the bat, we've got really good pace on these medium tyres. So as you can see, we're 1.5 seconds up on the delta time. So it's very pleasing to see that, unlike in Imola, we're straight on the pace immediately. And we're doing pretty well at the moment, as now we're into the fuel saving program. So our first lap straight up, we're doing very well at this fuel saving. You know, we're not letting the revs get up really too far at all, and we're still maintaining a good pace, 0.8 up on the delta. So again, our pace on these medium tyres is looking very good, as we have on our first attempt got purple and everything so far, now going to our finals program. And this one has taken actually an extra lap to try and get done, but you can see on the graph there, it's actually, we were very close to getting purple on our first attempt, so we just needed that second one to dial in our strategy for getting a good tyre wear. So everything is looking very good ahead of the race, and it's going to be a dry race, remember too. So now going ahead into qualifying, as we can see now, it is soaking wet. The track looks slippy, as it is, remember, also a street circuit, so there's a lot of painted lines around the circuit. That's going to possibly cause us a little bit of issues as we get ourselves weighed. But we're now onto our first qualifying lap, and as in Imola as well, that was a wet qualifying too. I said that having just doing multiple laps after just lap after lap just seemed to help me a lot, going as I learned the track conditions and getting the tyres into a good grippy stage, as our first flying lap actually puts us fastest ahead of the two McLarens, the Mercedes, and also the Alpine. So pace looking very good at the moment. And a few laps later, this is now our fourth flying lap, we tagged the wool a little bit on the exit there of the swimming pool chicane, but the main thing is we're still up on our time. So going through the last corner, we're going to come down onto the main straight now. We're about 0.3 up on our previous lap time, which will actually put us to the top. So that's like really promising actually, because we're now ahead of the two Ferraris as well. So it seems like pole position could be on the cards here, but we're not going to try and get ourselves too far ahead at the moment. We're just going to be focusing. Oh, that's a big incident. So I reckon we're now just going to have to pull the car in and put on a fresh set in case if the track does grip up a bit more. But as I was saying before, I reckon if we can just make sure we're into Q2, that's the main thing, and just go session by session. And on our next lap, I just went out just to try and make sure if the track did grip up a little bit more that we were safe, but we're going 1.5 seconds faster on a fresh set of intermediates here. So this should well and truly make sure that we're through into the next session. And if we're going 1.5 seconds faster on our previous lap, we were already P1, so I would imagine we've gapped the field by quite a bit here when we go into the session results. And sure enough, 1.5 seconds we're up on the Ferraris by. So I don't know if maybe we're just pushing really hard for it to only be Q1 and everyone else is a bit further off the pace. We'll have to wait and see, as we're now onto our first qualifying lap into Q2, and we've had a big moment again leaving the swimming pool chicane. So we're really pushing the limits on this car, in these conditions are now going out of the final corner and down the main straight. Well, it's not really a straight, it's a bit more of a curve, but this should put us into P1, and it does as we go by a couple of cars there leaving the pit lane. And now moving forward again, a bit squirrely on the exit. Once again, all those painted lines not making it easy, and we go fastest once again. We're just constantly improving on this time. We've actually hit the wall. We picked up a ton of understeer mid-corner. It's put us in the wall, so we're definitely going to have to come in now and put on another set of tyres on the car, so definitely set us back a little bit. But we're going on to our final flying lap just to make sure we're through to Q3. We've gone another 9/10 quicker, so we are loving these conditions around Monaco at the moment. And it'll be interesting to see as well what the gap was in the end to the Ferraris. I think it was in P2. So yeah, Charles Leclerc P2, and it's 1.1 seconds this time, not the 1.6. So they have closed in a bit, so that could just be a case of the Ferrari slowly getting quicker. And now we're just going to do a full lap here to check out the conditions of the track. So in turn 1 ended up being pretty easy, and then we got on the power nice and early as well. So the grip's definitely there, and from memory this is actually a fresh set of intermediate tyres, so making sure we've got all the grip available, and going through now Massenet and Casino and going down the hill into Mirabeau, so getting the braking zones all nice and done. Don't want to cook it too much, or we'll end up in that wall as Carlos Sainz did in real life. Now going through the hotel hairpin, Charles Leclerc sets the fastest lap of the session so far, and as we now head into Portier, it's now time to go through the tunnel. So this is really the time where we can just let it loose and go flat out. The track's dry here, so we're not really going to be any grip limited at all, but now we have to get ready for the Noville chicane. So this is going to be we actually cut the curb a little bit there, as Carlos Sainz said, a fast lap there, so I did cut that a little bit, but I don't think it's going to cost us too much. Now it's time for a really fast left-right. This can be a real troublesome area, as Mick Schumacher found last year, I reckon it was. Max Verstappen now goes fastest. So we're now about to go into Rasgas, and hopefully, it's currently 2 green sectors, so it's actually not a purple lap time so far, so this might not actually put us to the top. So it's just cool to be into Q3, so I don't think we've been into Q3 yet this season, so making it to Q3 is pretty cool, and we do go fastest. And in the end, we didn't actually improve on that lap time, so we've gone straight to the session results. Max Verstappen will join us on the front row of the grid. George Russell's 3rd. Zhou Guan Yu in the Alfa Romeo, that's a bit of a surprise, down in 10th. And remember, the 2 Alphas in that wet qualifying in Imola also got themselves inside the top 10. I think they maintained the top 10 for quite a while until Zhou unfortunately had that mechanical failure.
Formula One returns to Monte Carlo once again today, home to the world-famous Monte Carlo Casino that first opened in 1863. And of course, a certain road race first held in 1929. There's no greater an occasion, no more valuable a win than the Monaco Grand Prix. The astonishing Circuit de Monaco is, for all intents and purposes, virtually unchanged since its inaugural race back in 1929. The faster cars of today ensure the 19 corners past the casino and along the seafront remain as thrilling as ever. A 2.1-mile lap here takes us around an entire country, yet never more than inches from the race-ending barriers. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. The Rainmaster lines up on pole position, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Russell, Sainz, Leclerc, Hamilton, Norris, Perez, Fernando Alonso, Zhou, Oscar Piastri, Ocon, Hülkenberg, Gasly, Magnussen, Stroll, Albon, Bottas, Tsunoda, Sargent, De Vries, and Ayumu Iwasa. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? A warm welcome to Anthony Davidson, who's beside me in the commentary box today. Why don't we kick off by discussing Max Verstappen? That was a great win in the last race, but can they keep that momentum going into this weekend?
There are never any guarantees in this business, but certainly the performance last time out would have boosted their confidence coming into this one.
After the points finished last race, let's aim to keep that momentum going.
And oh boy, the nerves are building. Our first front row start, and we're actually going to do quite a bit of strategy editing here. So I reckon I want to save the hard tyres for the second stint, because I think I would rather defend on the medium tyres to start with and then move to the hard tyres. I reckon that's going to be probably the best way to go. The hard tyres for me are personally faster, so I reckon if I can try and extend the medium tyres a tiny little bit, but not too far, because in the end we don't want to be going around a street circle with no tyre wear left. So I reckon starting on the mediums to get ourselves that little bit of a better launch, and then just trying to defend on those medium tyres and then attack on the hard tyres will be probably the way to go. As on our formation lap here, Verstappen's actually going to pass us a little bit. I was a little bit slack on the start. I just wanted to make sure I got the grip point on the clutch correct. But yeah, we can get back by Verstappen, and now it's just a chance to try and get ourselves into a good tyre window and make sure that we get plenty of grip off the line. As you can see here, we're swerving all over the track trying to get any sort of temperature into the tyres, and they're actually nicely in the high 80s, and 0.1, I reckon that's probably the best grid slot that we've had so far this season. As we now look at the lights, they build up 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, and they're actually holding the lights for a little bit, and it is eventually 5 lights, and away we go. We actually get a pretty good start over Max Verstappen, and George Russell, you can see, he's actually made a big start, and he's gone for the dive on us as well, so he's had a mega start. But we're going to try and squeeze him out here, but he's keeping his nose there. We don't want to cause a monumental crash going up the hill to straight up with, and he's going to attempt it around the outside of us, but we're going to give him a bit of a squeeze, and he's going to have to drop in back behind us, as Sainz and Verstappen behind us are also going side by side. So a very eventful start in the end. I thought I had a good start to get by Max Verstappen. He just must have had an absolute shocker, as Verstappen and Sainz are actually still going side by side through the hairpin. So they're going to lose a heap of time to myself and Russell if they're going to keep doing that. As we're now into the tunnel for the first time of 39 times this race, it is a 50% length race, and we're going down into the Noville chicane, trying to just make sure we don't clobber the curb too much, don't want to get ourselves a strike, but also want to try and keep that floor in pristine condition, And now going through the swimming pool chicane, George Russell's actually caught up to us a lot closer, so I am going pretty conservative through here. The tyres are a little bit colder, and actually George Russell's shunted us up and from behind us, and he's actually out of the race, so this may well cause a full course safety car, which could bring the pack right back together. But at the moment it's going to be a virtual safety car, and eventually it is going to be the full safety car. So George Russell, I don't know what he's doing. He just drove into the back of us, and that's ended his race early. So bit of a clumsy move there, as we'll do an order check here quickly under the safety car. So it's ourselves leading from Carlos Sainz and Max Verstappen in the podium positions, and Hamilton, Leclerc, Norris, Perez, Zhou has actually caught up in a couple of positions in that as well. Alonso and Ocon round out the points positions at the moment. Piastri, he's in P11. Piastri's been P11 for quite a lot of this season so far. Hulkenberg, Gasly, Magnussen, Albon, Stroll, Bottas, Tsunoda, Sargent. Our teammate in Iwasa is actually down in P20 at the moment, so he may be second last on the road, but he has gained 1 position due to Russell DNFing, and De Vries is currently last on the road, and Russell the 1 DNF obviously at the moment, as we now are about to go green flag racing, and we're going to launch it out of the final corner to try and get ourselves a good run. And there's about a 6/10 gap that we've got going into the first corner, as the yellow flags actually remain out, even though it's showing green flag on the track map, so that glitch still in the game at the moment. But heading up the hill now, and now fast forwarding a few laps now, as you can see, I haven't actually been able to gap Carlos Sainz that much on these medium tyres. I'm only hovering around about 1 second ahead of him, so some laps he's getting the DRS advantage, some laps he's not. So I'm really just trying to make sure that he doesn't get too far away from us. So we do have the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far, and now going back up the hill once again, he has closed in that gap quite a bit. We tagged the wall on the exit slightly as well, so he is currently half a second down on us, and that half a second is closing pretty quickly as well. So I am much better through here than I am than the AI. I reckon that's just where the downforce comes into play a little bit more, or I don't know what it is, but I am just quite a bit more quicker. As you can see, I've already gained 2/10 on Sainz through there, but they do tend to catch me in the first and third sector. So this middle sector is where I need to be really good. As you can see, I've now managed to gap a second on Carlos Sainz. So I reckon this will be a bit of a cat and mouse of just trying to push in different sections of the track, but pushing around this area does come with a risk of the walls being so close. And now Carlos Sainz has gained quite a lot on us a few laps later. He's now only 3/10 behind us, so he's keeping us on our toes. We're constantly having to push as we have a little bit of a tank slapper coming out of there. So there's really no time for us to back off at all, during this Grand Prix. So we are very much pushing this entire race, and now we look at Fernando Alonso. Alonso actually had a pretty shocking start to the Grand Prix. Remember, he started up a little bit further. So for him to now be stuck behind Zhou is probably not where he intended to be this Grand Prix. So, and definitely around a track that's nearly impossible to pass. So it's not impossible, but it's near impossible. So Alonso is probably kicking himself for that, and he's now stuck behind an Alfa Romeo of all cars. So probably not where he wants to be. And now Verstappen is also caught up to the back of myself and Carlos. So now we're starting to form a little bit of a train behind myself. So maybe I don't quite have the pace of the AI at the moment, but I am hoping that I can just defend this, and this is where that strategy came into play with that wet qualifying of using the wet setup to try and boost ourselves. I didn't expect it to give me a pole position, but I will take the pole position. So now we just have to try and maintain this P1, or if we do lose it, just try and stay in the points. I reckon just a points finish will be cool. The podium would be mega if we could keep the win. That would just be absolutely perfect for us and the team. And as you can see now, fast forwarding another couple of laps, we've now extended the lead over Carlos Sainz by 1.5 seconds. So I reckon we're just currently going through phases of when to push, when to not push. Don't overheat the tyres. Don't get too much rubber build up over the tyres as well if you have to ever go offline. As you can see there, we actually got a little bit of wheel spin coming out of the no-wheel chicane. So my tyres are starting to wear a little bit, and I don't think I mentioned it, but going out of the first corner on the opening lap, I did get a message from the engineer that said that there was some engine wear issues. So I'm currently a little bit down on power as well, as our pit window has opened up and Leclerc's the first one to blink. He's going into the pits first, so it'll be interesting to see where he pops out, because obviously you don't want to be thrown back out into traffic. So if Ferrari have got this strategy right, he should come out with some clean air. Doesn't look like it though, as the Haas of Magnussen's going to go by him, and I would imagine Albon's gone by him as well. So if they can get him into this gap, hopefully the Williams won't be holding him up too much, and he does come out ahead of Lance Stroll. So that's cool that they did end up getting that little gap in, as now we're actually going to extend ourselves by 1 lap. I want to try and extend this tyre so I can pretty much do a sprint stint on the hard tyre, as both Sainz and Hamilton come in. So now I'm actually under risk of getting an undercut done, as this is Sainz having his pit stop done and Lewis Hamilton pops into the pit bay ahead of him, and no issues there by Ferrari and no issues there for Mercedes. So they're going to maintain their gap, and as you can see now, we're going to say we're boxing this lap. We're not going to try and extend this any further. We don't want to try and get done by them, so we're going to be pushing really hard, and Verstappen's actually gaining on us with the hard tyres now coming into effect, as they will have the better grip at this stage of the race. So that gap is constantly coming down, so we're going to now throw it into the pit lane and try and get ourselves onto the hard tyres and see if we can't make anything work with this. And Verstappen's actually going to follow us in, so those hard tyres didn't go as long as I didn't think, and I'm sure Red Bull will be kicking themselves that. Myself had a similar pace to Verstappen on the medium tyres this far into the race, so I don't think Verstappen and Red Bull have made the correct call there by starting on the hard tyres. So now we're going to be going onto the hard tyre, and we've actually had a slow stop. No, and now Verstappen's gone by us. Oh, absolute disaster.
How you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine. You just can't get into it because they make that run.
Luckily though, Hamilton has been held up in traffic, so we're going to maintain our position ahead of Hamilton, but both Sainz and Verstappen have got back by us, and we have got quite the train of cars in front of us to try and get by. So we're going to be lining up a move here on Nico Hülkenberg down into Maribor to try and dispatch him as quickly as possible. He defends it one way and then goes back to the racing line, so we're going to open up that gap and make sure we get through. So that was a bit of an argy-bargy move on Nico Hülkenberg, but it had to be done. And now, leaving the tunnel, we're going to be sending a move on Carlos Sainz. We want to get this lead back as soon as possible. So we did pushing Carlos Sainz there onto the curb quite a bit, and he ended up cutting the curb just a tad. As Fernando Alonso actually now sets the fastest lap, so he's found a little bit of clean air, but it's Max Verstappen now leading the Monaco Grand Prix. We're going to be trying to get by him as quickly as possible. We want to we're much faster on these hard tyres, so we want to be trying to get the lead off him as quickly as possible. He's got quite the stint to do on these medium tyres, and just based on how much grip I'm getting out of that section there, going onto the straight before the tunnel section, I reckon that's probably where we're going to have to be lining up our move. So now, just a lap later, when we're not too far back behind, but you can see that Verstappen is using up a lot of tyre. He's getting out sideways on the exit of the corners, so we're going to be trying to think of getting past him as quickly as possible, because we don't want to be getting held up too much. So we're tucked up nice and close up behind him, and we're going to send it down the inside of Max Verstappen, a bit of an unorthodox place to get the move done, but we have to get it done somehow, as we did set a purple sector, so we've got plenty of pace. And now we're just going to be trying to defend, get nice and close and down through the tunnel curve, and now into the Nouvelle chicane. So that was really a critical point of this race, as we actually get a bit of contact there from Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen has given us a bit of a tag there going through race gas. So he's not too happy that we got by him in that spot, I reckon. I reckon he's not too happy that, yeah, he was caught napping a bit. So we took advantage of a door that was left open, and we receive a tap in favour of that. So yeah, Verstappen definitely not happy, as now Carlos Sainz is actually now caught up to us, and Hamilton's P4, Norris P5. Norris is doing pretty good of a recovery drive. Leclerc and Perez battling it out in P6 and 7. Alonso 8th. He has got by Zhou through the pit stop stage. Zhou is still managing to hold on to a points position here in P9, and Ocon's in the final point spot in P10. Piastri still P11, and Albon's absolutely flying in that Williams. As you can see, they're getting the towel out with Magnussen and Hulkenberg 13-14, Bottas, Stroll, Gasly, Tsunoda, and Iwasa still P19. So I'm not too keen on Iwasa's performance so far this season. I know he's a rookie and the car's not too great, but I'm currently leading the Grand Prix, so it's not good to see him down in P19. So De Vries is P20 and Logan Sargent P21, with Russell still the only non-finisher so far this race. And as you can see now, we have gapped with Verstappen by 1.2 seconds, but he does have the fastest lap of the race, so he's got pace on hand. We're just going to have to see if he can maintain that pace, because we could be under attack from him later on in the race if we use up our hard tyres and he manages to save those mediums. But hopefully these hard tyres will be able to seal the deal for us, and our strategy was the right strategy by starting on the medium to get that launch. And now, only a few laps later, there's only a few laps left in the race as well. Verstappen is on a charge. He is now only 7/10 behind us, and he is closing rapidly. So now we might, in these last few laps, if we don't manage to pick up the pace a little bit, we're definitely going to have to be doing some defensive work to try and keep this P1. And looking in that bottom corner, our engine wear is not too good at the moment. Now onto the final lap of the race. We have a pretty shocking run going through Saint-Devote. So Verstappen could now very well be all over the back of us going into this last section. As we're running wide, we've tagged the wall, and we've had a bit of a sideways moment. So now Verstappen's definitely all over the back of us. We're going to have to be going very defensive going to Mauro here, because we cannot let him go through on one of the few passing opportunities around this track, and a bit more of a wheel spin here, as we're now getting a bit desperate just to make it to the end of this race, no matter what position we're in, because I just want to get this race over and done with. We're currently P1. We've led nearly the entire race, so the fact that we could possibly lose it here on the final lap, and also this engine could let go at any moment, that is a very worn out engine as well. So now going into the Nouvelle chicane for the final time this race, we've got quite the train. P1 to P4 are pretty close together. It's only probably about two and a half seconds separating the top four of this Grand Prix so far. So going through the finals, a few corners of this race, we should be able to hold on from here. We should be able to get our first win. We should be able to win the Monaco Grand Prix. Going out of the final corner now, we're going to be greeted by the checkered flag. We're going to win the Monaco Grand Prix. It's our first win as a driver in this series. It's our first win for Brabham. It's Brabham's first win in many, many years in Formula 1. So we're going to soak this one up. We're going to soak in the cooldown lap, and we're going to spray plenty of champagne on the podium as Fernando Alonso gets driver of the day in the end, making up a couple of positions.
That's it then for another nail-biting Monaco Grand Prix. We were on the edge of our seats the whole time, but they've come through to take a stunning victory. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I really feel the track layout combined with the track temperatures we saw today suited their car. These cars come alive when the tyres are just at the right temperature, and the driver did a great job managing that as well. They just look so comfortable out there. It's like anything, it always looks so easy when it all just clicks.
Here comes your top three making their way down to the podium for what can only be described as a fantastic day for Formula One.
So there we have it. I reckon our strategy is what saved us there from the charge of Max Verstappen. I reckon getting that launch was very pivotal in this race to make sure that we didn't fall behind of Max Verstappen, because I reckon if we were on the same tyre as him and didn't have any sort of tyre advantage or disadvantage over him, I don't think there was any hope of getting by the Dutchman. So I reckon strategy saved us there, and the chance that we took of putting on a wet setup. So we also did that race on the wet setup as Parc Fermé rules are in place. So now looking at the results, we've seen the podium, and now it was Lewis Hamilton ahead of Lando Norris. So a British 4-5, Leclerc probably disappointed to drop down the P6. Perez, Alonso, Zhou did finishing inside the points, with Ocon finishing in the final points paying position, and Oscar Piastri would be absolutely gutted to once again miss out on points, finishing P11. From memory, he did finish P11 in the race just gone by in Imola, and now looking further down the field, Iwasa did end up finishing P19, so pretty disappointing on that spectrum. But now looking at the driver standings, we've boosted ourselves up to P8 now. We're only, 14 points behind George Russell, and 4 points ahead of Lando Norris, and now we're also 4 points ahead of McLaren in the constructors, but we've got a little bit of a gap to Aston Martin, so I reckon our battle is going to be with Aston Martin and McLaren, just trying to defend our position from McLaren and try and see if we can't gain anything on Aston Martin, because I reckon Aston Martin's really only got the one strong driver so far this season. But it's pretty cool to see ourselves in P5 in the standings as we're now back in the HQ. Time to calm down a little bit. We've got a job to do. So to help out Iwasa, we're putting him on some more external training and also a podium celebration party to try and get some team morale up. And for the aerodynamics, you saw we quickly did a secondary wing flap upgrade as we now fast forward further, and now we're currently at the Spanish Grand Prix, which will be the next episode. So another bonus that came out of the Monaco Grand Prix was we've gained enough team acclaim now to get ourselves another secondary sponsor, so now we'll have a bit more of an income coming through to try and boost through some upgrades and try and see if we can't do anything more with the facilities that we've got at the HQ. So if you did enjoy this video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you at the next episode, which will be the Spanish Grand Prix.